Thank you all for coming. I'm incredibly honored to be here and actually very grateful for this opportunity because I look at this chance to speak today on behalf of the Moreau Center as a gift to myself. Because being here gives me a little bit of a chance to feel like I'm doing something good and thereby starting to deserve the miraculous but sometimes overwhelming fact that I'm alive. Some of you may know that on January 12th, I was visiting and working with my dear friend and fellow UP graduate Molly Hightower in Haiti. And our 7-story building collapsed on us during the earthquake, and we were both trapped. And while I made it out, Molly did not. You may also have read articles or seen news segments about Molly, but I was lucky enough to know her, to live with her, to love her, and to serve with her. I could probably spend this entire time and much longer trying to do justice to the joy that she brought and continues to bring to my life. And I don't think that any news article or speech could capture her straight up awesomeness, so I'm not even going to try. But today I do want to share with you a bit about why Molly and I ended up in Haiti on January 12th, and the intrinsic role that the Moreau Center had in bringing us there. In 2008, the same spring semester that I was lucky enough to be a part of the Moreau Center immersion trip to Nicaragua, Molly had her first international service experience through the border plunge. I ended up following her example and went on the border plunge the spring of the following year. And when we sent out those lovely fundraising letters that I'm sure a few of you get around Christmas time, Molly was actually the first person to send me a check. It was just $20, but $20 is a lot when you're a college student and already live on a diet of McDonald's, hamburger helper without the hamburger, and Diet Dr. Pepper. A veritable buffet of nutritional excellence that Molly was famous for. But Haiti allowed me to get to know the wonderful person underneath the horrible eating habits and obsession with celebrity gossip and America's Next Top Model. During one of our many conversations that I will forever cherish during our time together in Haiti, Molly told me that she would have never considered putting her life on hold for a year to work in Haiti if it weren't for her border plunge experience. It was the reason she had even thought about it. The Moreau Center had provided Molly with a catalyst, a turning point, an eye-opener that led toward her decision to spend a year in a country void of fast food and Tyra Banks, caring not only for the children in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, but for the ones that had the greatest need, the disabled and abandoned children. It is as if the Moreau Center service learning trips generate and mold people like Molly, or my friend in Nicaragua, companion Lauren Johnson, a 2008 UP graduate, who passed away last year, days before leaving for a service trip to Jerusalem as part of her path to earn her master's in human rights. But inspiring, molding, and supporting such wonderful alumni doesn't just happen by luck or chance. The Moreau Center has a unique formula that has created such astounding success, of which service learning trips are an intrinsic part. Every motivated, passionate young person goes through this constant battle of self-doubt, spurred by inexperience and lack of resources. We may feel compelled into action, but we have no means to turn our passion into tangible results. We are painfully aware of our weaknesses and shortcomings, and wonder when we will ever be educated enough or experienced enough to truly be useful to someone who needs us. If we are unable to find the outlet for our compassion, many of us may end up foregoing our desire to help others, dismissing them as naive altruism, but end up feeling powerless or apathetic every time we hear of a tragedy because we are not equipped to help. But the Moreau Center changes that. They provide the means and the opportunities to turn passionate, confused, thrashing students into pragmatic, capable, and educated, but even more passionate adults. A huge part of this success comes from the Moreau Center's emphasis on learning, not just service. As a student fundraising for my 2 plunges, I was often frustrated at the lack of a concrete answer to the question of, but what are you going to do when you get there? Because so much of the experience is learning and observing, processing, sharing, and inspiring. The thing is, while building a house or planting a tree is intrinsically valuable, that temporary, warm, fuzzy feeling of accomplishment is not all we're looking for. Those accomplishments must be backed up by the exposure to the underlying issues that cause the need for our service in the first place. We're here for the long-term changes that lead to years of service in Haiti and master's degrees in human rights. Not just a warm, nice, heartwarming spring break story. This might mean that students may experience a deportation drive through a dump filled with people scavenging for food, or a neighborhood destroyed by a hurricane, and not always pick up a shovel or a paintbrush every day. And the emotions, perhaps feelings of despair or anger conjured by these experiences, and this new knowledge that there is a reason people suffer, and that some person or group or government, someplace, some time ago made a decision that is causing pain today, those emotions lead to conversations that lead to suggestions and ideas that lead to advocacy that leads to solutions. This snowball effect caused by the Moreau Center's focus on learning is so much bigger than one home built or one family fed or one tree planted. But some may say that these transformations and experiences could come from a more local approach. Surely fundraising, organization, and interpersonal skills can be learned through planning a food drive or serving at a homeless shelter right here in North Portland. Fundraising for these trips is obviously a process. So why do our students need to go to Mexico, Alaska, the South, or Nicaragua to see striking and inspirational things and complete a personal transformation? We have poverty right here. People are suffering nearby. So wouldn't it be so much easier if we converted all of our trips instead of just a few to be a short bus trip away? Easier, maybe. But again, easy isn't really what we're looking for. The thing that is so important to understand is the massive difference between poverty and suffering here in our local community and what happens in places with no infrastructure, no access to clean water, no social services, no homeless shelters, and no soup kitchens. The suffering in places like Nicaragua or the South post-Katrina or Haiti is just a whole different category. The desolation is everywhere, the pain is in the eyes of the young and the old, it lasts for generations, it permeates everything. In places where there's no government to turn to for help, or where cultural differences or historical issues generate barriers that must be understood before we can even think of solving a problem. The anguish is everywhere. Despair hangs in the air, it can be tasted and smelled like the dust settling from collapsed buildings after an earthquake. It is just too much, too multifaceted to be comprehended in one night at the soup kitchen. The plethora of problems in too many places around the world is the reason we need global service learning experiences for students. The Moreau Center provides them with exposure to the issues and sometimes to grief and sadness, but also provides students with resources, like faculty advisors, months of preparation, and like-minded peers that will allow our students to process the suffering and turn the despair into motivation. But if they have to get the chance to see it and feel it now, because if they try to go somewhere like Haiti after graduation, having never seen a mass grave or a malnourished child, they may crumble. Moreau Center trips do not anesthetize us to the suffering or make us immune, but they prepare us for it. In Haiti, Molly and I were able to, as she often said, focus on the good, to stay sane, because we had been given the resources and experiences of a Moreau Center trip during our time on the bluff. We could hold the babies whose skin was sloughing off from lack of nutrition, who weighed 6 pounds at 3.5 months. We could feed them, cuddle them, provide light, and hope for them without breaking down. We could console the mothers whose child had contracted meningitis without making her situation worse with our own sadness. And we could even provide essential laughter in an abandoned child's life. And we could do it all without crumbling from the weight of despair, because you can't give in to the hopelessness and still be there to tickle an adorable child just waiting for your affection. And at the end of the day, we could ask ourselves the tough questions, process what we had seen, and support each other through the anger, despair, and lingering hope. And the next day, we could get up and do it all over again. We could do our jobs because the Moreau Center had prepared us. By being here today, you are helping the next round of not only passionate, but also effective and capable students turn their compassion into something tangible. You make it possible for students to become inspired to continue their path of service after graduation because of their Moreau Center experience. And you also ensure that they will be equipped to handle what they encounter. They will be prepared. You are helping the Moreau Center both incite passion and ensure success when that passion is turned into action. So thank you so much for supporting the Moreau Center and the next wave of students like Molly. And even though it's hard to hear about sad things and the suffering that the students on these trips may encounter, and even though Molly would probably think this speech was a total downer, you've been a great audience, and I'm so happy that you're all here to learn about programs that Molly was so passionate about, so thank you.